We've been the best offense in the league since the new year. Great coach. He give us a lot of freedom. We just, like to share the ball, and guys kind of made it easy for me today for sure.
We saw the wave going on. Yeah. You had the T-shirt gun.
Yeah.
How much fun was this one tonight?
No, every game's been fun since I've been in Minnesota, man. I'm just happy to come out here and continue to kind of keep things going. Our goal was definitely to be in the playoffs, and, we definitely want to keep that energy going, so for sure.
Thanks for the time, Pat.
Thank you so much.
There he is, man, the master of the T-shirt cannon, the straw that stirs the drink, Pat Beverley. Just like the straw that stirs the Timberwolves Twitter drink is with us right now. Dane Moore from the Dane Moore NBA podcast. You can also find his writing at Bring Me the News. Dane, we've come a long ways. You've covered some dark, dark days of Timberwolves basketball. And last night, I know they were playing the G League Blazers, but when you're looking around the arena and Karl-Anthony Towns has a big goofy grin on his face for 2 hours, and they're shooting off T-shirt guns during timeouts. They're 8 games over 500.
Jugs to my left, all grouchy. And
I wasn't grouchy at all. I was in a good mood.
Grouchy. Why are you grouchy, dude?
I wasn't grouchy last night.
This is great basketball.
I was working on Zolgad's Roundup. I was businesslike.
Which you can find at SKORNorth.com and the SKOR North mobile app. Free to download. That's right. Yeah.
No, Jed wasn't grouchy. Jed was. He's like, every time he comes, he's like, "What's going on here? I've never seen this before."
Yeah,
it's incredible. Your squad. What's happening? It's completely different.
Hey, Dane.
I know.
So the one thing, and we didn't talk about this last night, when Crunch, during that timeout that Pat Bev just talked about, and Crunch had the T-shirt cannon. It's right in front of us, okay, you guys? Yeah. And Pat Bev, who I really like as a player, but is off his rocker slightly, grabbed the T-shirt cannon. Did you say a quick prayer like, oh my God, if he points that thing, if he doesn't point it exactly right, that was going to hit you in the face or me, and it wouldn't have been pretty.
It kind of split the uprights of the two of us. We had about a 5-foot space between the two of us, and it went right through. Yes. No, I do not trust Patrick Beverley with the T-shirt gun at all. I have no idea what was going to happen. I mean, dude, I thought the funniest part, like everyone talks about the T-shirt cannon, but then late in the game, Jake Layman had some block, and it goes 15 feet into the stands, whatever. Somehow Patrick Beverley winds up with it, and he throws it up into the stands like beach ball style, and the fans are like batting it around. I mean, it was the drunkest game I've ever seen. The whole thing was just, it was stupid. It was all like, those are all technicals. Everything they're doing is not, you can't do any of that stuff. But they were just like, all right, it's the Timberwolves. We'll let them.
The Blazers are going to remember that in 15 years, the next time they're relevant after they trade Damian Lillard this summer. So, I mean, let's start with, because we're talking about the fans and just the atmosphere. I think when D'Lo came out a few weeks ago and called out the quiet ass fans, and then it sparked a discussion with Jim Pete chiming in and you and Johnny K, just like, all right. Yeah, they're definitely quiet, but they're also just like shattered and broken over the course of 17 years of it's a damaged fan base. So you got to understand the history.
It also costs like $100 to go to one of those games.
Yeah, it's expensive.
Down anywhere near where we sit, like it is just now crossing over, like a couple of weeks ago, into that, in my opinion, like being worth it. I mean, the amount of times I've covered the team for 5 years. The amount of games I've sat at there. And the Wolves have been that Blazers team on the other side. And I go and I look at the people around me and I go, this has to be like maddening.
Yeah.
For people who maybe it's their one game a year they get to go to, or just people who don't have that much disposable income. I thought so much, like the amount of times I've sat at a game and I'm like, I don't want to be here. Like this isn't nobody in the arena is having fun. The Wolves are like down by 40 and Chase Buddinger's leading the team in scoring. I mean, it's like there's been so much of that over the years that I don't know. I mean, I think it's just like this fan base is, I mean, we've talked about this before. Like the fan base never went anywhere. They just went home. Like, yeah, that's what happened. There's people, Phil, we talk about this all the time. You do great numbers whenever you talk about Wolves stuff. Like there are people There are people here who haven't stopped watching the team. It's in the culture here. It is. Like, you just need a, 40th percentile team. They don't even need to be average, and people will, and now they're above that. They're way above that. Like, the Timberwolves are legit good, not great. They're a legit good NBA team right now, and I mean, I haven't seen that since I've been there.
Yeah, and that's to what extent have they turned a corner to, let's just say, steady and good? Because I feel like there's always a sense of, even a game last night, right? Okay, the Blazers are terrible, but there's no D'Lo. Like, in the back of my head, I'm still thinking, okay, is Cat going to have one of those weird games where he gets 3 fouls in the first, 12 minutes? And it kind of feels like they've graduated even from November, December. Where do you think they're at? They're not the Suns, I get it, but where do you think they're at in their cycle here as a franchise?
The word that sticks out, steady. Like they're steady and good. That was they had the same amount of talent at the beginning of the year. They were not steady at the beginning of the year at all. And that's why you would have kind of some of this anxiety just in any game. It didn't matter who, like the Pelicans a couple times back at the beginning of the year, right? You're like, okay, the Pelicans without Zion, they've lost 12 of their first 14 games, but you never had any, you didn't have confidence in the team not because you didn't know they had talent, but you knew that they just waxed and waned in their focus or whatever it might be. I just feel like steadiness comes from maturity. Steadiness comes from a culture setting in. And I think their leader, Karl-Anthony Towns, has gotten more mature. And I think Karl-Anthony and I think the coach has instilled that culture with Pat Bev. Obviously a big variable in that too, but it's just, I don't know, man. It's just different. It's all
I don't know
really
what to make
different.
of it. You're like, I don't know what's going on here either. Nobody does.
I'm just showing up. I'm like, okay, I mean, part of you thinks okay, is this all just like a blip? And then obviously, I mean, they're playing the Blazers and the Thunder and the Blazers again, and those aren't real teams. So does this matter? But it's been a season of it. They're over 60 games into the year, and they're winning a lot more games than they're losing. So yeah, they're beating the Blazers and Thunder joke teams like that too. But they beat the Warriors before that. They beat the Cavs before that. They're able to compete with most teams in the league now. And how many times have we been able to say that?
And Dane, I think the key word there too, it's not sexy, but steady is a very accurate word, because I mean, this franchise for years has been just up and down, and you think that they get it and they don't. When it comes to Chris Finch, he's done a lot of good things. He looks like a dad who's disgruntled constantly. The kids are late. I'm worried about my son. He's not home yet. But what do you think when it comes to Finch? What would you identify if there is one thing that he has brought that basically goes with that word steady, Dane?
Well,
it's
the G League stuff.
Okay.
It's the G League stuff, because it's I mean, none of us really, I don't even know that. I don't know what's going on in the G League, really. I just know there's different guys on the team every day. I know it's these random dudes who are all fighting for individual accolades. And that's where he cut his teeth, right? Is convincing a bunch of individuals in the G League to play like a team, because if you play like a team, you will be recognized for playing like a team, and that's how you will get your opportunity to go to the league and get paid. And I remember Rosas was talking about that last year, and I was like, what does that even mean? Okay, he coached in the G League. You think of that like the minor league, but the more I think about it, and the more I think about this team, and how I think the most impressive thing with this team is they've had 12 different guys actually in the rotation this year, maybe 13 even, and it kind of fluctuates who's playing and not, and that some of these players can be in the rotation for a month, then the roster gets healthy, and then they're out of the rotation for 2 or 3 weeks, and then they can come back in the rotation and play. I think that's all that's all the culture thing. That's all the coach being the cliche, stay ready. Well, this is the first time I've ever seen the Timberwolves players who aren't playing stay ready. I mean, Judd, where we sit at those games, the guys who usually sit right next to us, like right in front of us at the end of the bench, those guys do not usually stay ready. Yep. They're usually just chilling, picking up a check, And this is just it's very different in that way. And I think it's a team, given sort of like the imbalance of the roster. He came in and, it's a super offensive team. Oh, it's a super small team. Well, to make up for this, like these one-way imbalances, you need a collective sort of balancing of the group. And I think that, to me, is the biggest thing, that Finch has done, along with the defense. Like, that was impressive at the beginning of the year, those sort of things that made the defense decent, which we thought was impossible. But yeah, that steadiness and getting, I feel like a cliche machine, getting guys to buy in. But like, it's just, I never even knew that stuff was real until I saw it this year actually happen.
Yes, I think a lot of NBA players think that their coaches are mostly disposable. And I think LeBron James throughout his career has sort of made players feel that way. That like, we can bring a guy in and win a title and then we'll kick him out. It's not like the previous generation where Michael Jordan would swear by a Phil Jackson for a period, or coaches would, players would swear by a Pat Riley. I think it's really, really hard with modern players to get that buy-in that you talk about. And the Wolves are one of the rare teams that I hear almost every post-game media session or, interview on TV where like they're going out of their way unprompted to praise, like you heard with Pat Beverly. They're going out of their way to praise Chris Finch. What is it, from what you can tell, about the way that he communicates where he gets that buy-in, but he's also, you can tell, I mean, he's hard on guys when he needs to be too. He'll get into someone if they're not playing on-ball defense in the third quarter, whatever. What is it about his communication, Dane?
I think he's a weird dude. I mean that like in a good way, but he's just kind of like, all right. So like Chris Finch is the guy who like walks down the hallway and he's kind of like, his head's kind of in the clouds. And he's kind of like got his arm out and he's like touching the wall. He just kind of like lives in his own sort of world. You know what I'm talking about? Like, yes, that's who he is. And there's something very normal about that. And I think there's something very accessible about that from a player's standpoint. That just, I think his personality fits the personality of a basketball coach. I think this is like what Chris Finch is good at. You know what I mean? And you mentioned Patrick Beverly. He's got a relationship with him before, who Beverly swears by him. And I think you have Kat, who loves him too, who loved Ryan. Like, for that to happen, and I think like to a man down the roster, be like, yeah, like I mess with Finch, like that. I don't know what it is exactly. I think it's like a personality test where his INFJ like mixes with the rest of the group. It just does. Like, yeah. I don't know what it is exactly, but the more time you kind of like spend around the team, you see that he's cool with everybody, and because of that, he can let guys have it. He can pull guys from the rotation. But I'm assuming there's a lot of effective communication that goes on between Finch and the players that we don't see. That happens in practice, that happens on a text, happens on a call, whatever. Like, I think he's really good at that stuff.
Dan, how convinced are you now, from an intangible standpoint, as much as talent, or probably more so, that Kat has turned a corner? Because, I mean, I sat by you for 2 years, and I mean, Kat can be unbelievable at times, but I asked
Talk about grouchy.
Yeah, what's going on with Kat? Why is Kat complaining? Why is Kat? And you would be like, well, that's just sort of him. Yeah. This guy seems to be not completely changed, but he seems to be different now. There seems to be a different approach, and as Phil and I discussed on Monday, it seems to be more mature now. Do you think that we are seeing the evolution of Kat as a person as well, and that what we're seeing now is really going to be him going forward?
I just think he's grown up a little bit, and even outside of personal tragedy stuff, like, I think what I've learned in covering the NBA is understanding players' age, and that when they, like, we know what it was like when we were 22 years old, and you're figuring it out, right? Like, and there's this like kind of like 25 to 27 age where you see guys like like any normal human, kind of click their life into adult mode. And I feel like that's what I've seen from Cat happen over this year, really. And yeah, he's still like goofy cat. He'll tell you that. Like, he's just like, it was after the first Portland game on Saturday. He was like, yeah, I just decided to stop. Like, he said to us, he's like, I decided to stop listening to you guys, the media, telling me this is the right way to lead. These are the ways to do it. He goes, because I tried to do that stuff, and and it didn't happen. It didn't work. And so he's so much more comfortable in his skin, and he's just doing stuff his own way. There's not really a filter there. And there was always so much like vanity I felt like he was caught up in, the way he was being perceived and all. And he still got that. I mean, most professional athletes do, but it doesn't feel like as crippling to me in the ways that vanity or his concern about his perception doesn't feel like it's holding him back anymore. And so in that place, you just have his talent, right? And his talent has grown. He has a more diverse offensive game. I mean, or overall game. Right? The dude's playing like Giannis this year. I feel like that isn't out there. Like, 7-foot dudes like that do not just get the ball at the top of the key and like rip through drive 8 to 10 times a game. Yeah. That doesn't happen in the NBA outside of Giannis Antetokounmpo. That's a fact. Like, look at the numbers. He's evolving. He's evolving as a person. He's evolving as a player, and he's having his best season because of that.
I love where you're going with some of the personality stuff, because I think that stuff matters more in the NBA. Just like, there's fewer guys on a team. Like, if you're the star player, you're just more personally responsible as a leader and as a player on the court for the team's success than you would be, in baseball, for instance, or even in hockey. But I think he's a guy throughout his career, and this isn't even really a knock, it's just a human observation, that he's needed validation. Like, he's not Kobe Bryant, where he's 14 years old, he wakes up in the morning, thinks he's the best basketball player in the world, and has zero confidence issues, for the next 20 years. And so Flip Saunders at the time, I think, was a great coach and mentor for him, tragically passes away, and then all of a sudden he goes into the spin cycle of Tom Thibodeau, Jimmy Butler, didn't mesh well with his personality, life tragedies, losses on the court. So he didn't get validation from the people that led the team. He didn't get validation from the results on the court. And it probably set him back 2 or 3 years as a player and as a leader. And even like when they went to the playoffs against the Rockets and got drubbed in 5 games or whatever it was, and on national TV every night, the Inside the NBA crew that like all these young players seek validation from, whether they want to admit it or not, are clowning him on national television for being passive. Now you fast forward to last month, he wins the 3-point contest in front of the 75 greatest NBA players of all time and all of his peers. He's got Shaq, dapping him up on the sidelines and stuff. Like, maybe I'm overplaying this, but I just feel like he's getting more validation from peers, leaders, and results on the court, and it's fueling him.
It matters to him, Phil. Like, that stuff matters to him. Not every player does. Like, a lot of guys, like, it's their job. Like, they're just putting their head down, they're working, they're getting paid, they're all that. Like, for Cat, it's not – being in the NBA has not just been about being good. Like, being in the NBA is about being good, getting paid, and getting clout. Like, that matters to him. And to be fair, he's had the talent to deserve clout his whole career. He just never got it because his team lost, or the one year they won, the Butler year, he had a really disappointing playoffs. So he's never gotten that type of validation that he felt like he deserves, and he's never gotten the validation that his talent suggests it deserves. So now, he's he turned a corner a couple years ago where he was like, all right, stats isn't going to do it. Like, we got to win. We got to win, or nobody – I'm not getting that Shaq dap. I'm not getting that – I'm not getting to the All-Star game if we don't win, And yeah, and that's, I think, and that, again, that's just normal human growth and all those sort of things, understanding perspective. Like, yeah, Cat just understands perspective a lot better than he ever has before. And it's giving him little life pellets of like, yeah, I'm the 3-point champion. People are seeing me. Like, he's getting he's starting to get the respect that he's always wanted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Great stuff, man. What are give us before we say goodbye here? Dane Moore NBA podcast. Go check it out. Apple, Spotify. If they wind up, let's say, and they're probably gonna have to play the Clippers in a playing game here. But let's say they wind up again. Let's say they get through and they play Memphis in a 7-game series. I think they can go 6 or 7 games with Memphis. Am I crazy?
No, you're not crazy. I mean, that's the one you want. You want Memphis. You watch the way they play. The good thing about playing Memphis is that the Wolves catch like pretty much every team these days, not with a skeleton crew Blazers style, but for like a month or two, they've been playing every team. Like you play the Nets, no KD, you play whoever. It's just been injury after injury, and now that they've continued to win through that. And I'm kind of losing my thought. What was the question?
Oh, can they beat? I think they can. I think they can beat Memphis.
Yeah. So they played Memphis 4 times this season at full strength, and I think that is much more illuminating to me than like the Warriors, who they played without Draymond every single time, because they competed with that Memphis team, and I think if you just spaceshipped in and watch, you'd be like, oh, I think the team in the weird green jerseys might be better than that other team over there with the jaw kid. Like it looks like that for those 4 games. So yeah, you're gonna have to play in Memphis. They're gonna have home court in that series if you play them. But yeah, I mean, I would anticipate objectively a 6+ game series against the Grizzlies, and I think that's really important for this team. I think that's really important for Anthony Edwards. Like, I don't know how it's not of no value, but I don't think it's gonna be that valuable if you got to go to Phoenix or if you got to go to Golden State. I don't know. I think that's just the Houston series again, right? 4, maybe 5 games, probably some embarrassment in that. Like Memphis, you got a real series where you can convince yourself that you can compete in this, and you might even win it. Yeah. I think that would just be extremely valuable for the future of where this team is going. Because this is early. We're still early steps here with this team. Like, they got a long ways to go before becoming whoever, like the good version of themselves. But the playoffs matter in like your building process, and having an effective playoff series, even if you do lose it, I think there's just ways to lose in the playoffs. And I think the way they would lose to Memphis would be a lot more valuable than losing to the Suns or the Warriors in 4 or 5 games. So yeah, I mean, I'm tracking this 6 seed stuff every day. I don't know, the Mavs and Nuggets can't lose, apparently. So they can't make up a game on them, but I think it matters. I think we should continue to track it, even though the odds get longer and longer of being able to do it as the season we're running out of time. It just, you don't want to play the Clippers in the play-in game, who's smacked you a couple times this year. They got that. They put Batum on Cat. Like, they kind of got the Wolves number. You play the Clippers, and then if you lose that, you got to play LeBron in a 1-game series to go to the play. Like, that's tough. The 6 seed's important, and they're running out of time for it. But I think you got to keep going for it, because it will lead to a very different playoff experience if they get the 6 seed and they're able to play Memphis in that first round.
Yeah, Dane, great stuff, man. We love your work. Go check out Dane's podcast, the Dane Moore NBA podcast. He's killing it on the Wolves and NBA coverage, and we'll do it again for a playoff preview maybe in a few weeks.
Yeah, man, it's coming up. It's coming up.
Grouchy.
All right, guys. I'll see you grouchy there soon. Judd, you gotta be at all of them now. The Wild stink.
I know.
Yeah. Like, right?
I
might be joining Grouchy Judd. Yeah, I might be joining Grouchy Judd at a Wolves.
Oscar the Grouch sitting right by you, baby.
Come on.
Yeah.
We got room. We got room to sit there. Bring the T-shirt cannon.
No, don't hit me with it.
All right, that's
guys.
Dane Moore. On the Dane Moore NBA podcast. By the way, that Timberwolves discussion presented by our friends at Federated Mutual Insurance Company. They've been around for over 100 years, and they've been longtime partners with the Timberwolves, too. If you're looking to take your business to the next level, they have your back with all sorts of risk management tools and resources. FederatedInsurance.com, and remember, at Federated, it's our business to protect yours. Love me some Dane Moore, man.
Hell yeah.
He's got some perspective.
He's great. He is fantastic.
Yep. So, all right, that's a wrap on Mackie and Judd here. Daily Minnesota Sports Entertainment. Plenty more on the quarterback carousel that will start to spin now that Aaron Rodgers is back with the Packers for $200 million. So check out Purple Daily, and we'll see you guys tomorrow on Mackie and Judd.